Hello, my love. I'm Corrie. I'm living in a converted van with my husband and daughter as we tour around Europe full-time for the next year. And this is my new morning mindset routine, my van life edition. I have been working to cultivate a new routine that serves me and fits in with both this different pace of life and the continually changing locations that we find ourselves in. I'm going to take you through some of the ingredients of my morning mindset routine that I'm just really loving right now. And the first one is just that tranquility. That peacefulness of stepping out of the van before everyone else in the family is awake. Fortunately, they're late sleepers. And just taking in the scenery, taking in nature, finding that moment of peace for myself. It's just been so restorative after the stresses and strains of actually packing up, selling up, and leaving behind our lives and the rat race and everything that we've known in the UK. And so finding this new rhythm and enjoying that tranquility has been such a balm for my soul and has really helped me to start to integrate into this new way of life, because it would be easy to actually still just bring that stress with me, right? And I am really dedicated to enjoying a different pace this year, and that's one of the purposes of having this gap year, this time together as a family, is that slowness and that intentionality. First thing I like to do, if I can, and sometimes it's more of a glamorous and beautiful location than others, but I like to do something to move my body, and I'm really loving my yoga practice these days. Don't judge my form. I probably could do with some tuition on the yoga front, but it just feels so good to stretch my body and to work through some things on the mat. I find my mindset is always so much improved. I bring things to the mat that are bothering me, and as I'm working out the kinks in my body, I don't know, I seem to work out the kinks in my mindset. I've been just finding so much peace and contentment from this part of my practice. So I've had a morning mindset routine for years, and movement is always one part of it, and yoga has often featured, but it just feels really good for it to be a more consistent practice generally. I say generally because getting into a new routine, especially when our environment is constantly changing, has been challenging. Sometimes I haven't felt brave enough. Sometimes we've been in quite a public place and I just haven't felt like rolling out the mat and having everyone watch me, but I'm getting a bit more bold on that front. The other ingredient that I'm loving is finding myself a favorite place to sit. So a bench or a perch somewhere that I can go. I'm often out, actually, speaking about being bold, I'll often just go out brazenly in my jammies from the van. You can see me in them, and find somewhere to just sit and be and soak up that nature. And I bring my little tote bag with me, and I've got some things in there that I do, and we'll move on to that in a minute, but just sitting for a minute and having that alone time, it's been so good, and a way of creating some space. When you live in a van, you don't always get space, right? The other thing that I'm loving as part of this new routine is writing. So again, I've shared my morning mindset routine and the structure that I use to make sure that it's flexible and realistic regardless of circumstances. You can watch my video on that. I'll link that in the description. For years and years now, I've journaled every morning, and it's part of my manifestation practice. But my writing has also evolved since I've been here, and since I've been traveling. I've just felt so deeply inspired by so many of the places that we've been. I found myself writing poetry, which I'm kind of laughing at because I didn't think it would be something I would ever do, and it just seems to come out of me. I don't know, I don't know if I'll ever share it or what I'll do with it, and I don't think it really matters. I'm just enjoying that pen to page and that moment to pause and observe and feel inspired and then do something with that inspiration. So I used to always have a part of my morning routine would be something to motivate me, and I haven't felt the need for that because I feel so inspired and that is so motivating. And then I love actually the transition from that alone time into time with the family, and that normally starts with a morning cup of tea. Good run?
Lush. Absolutely lush.
Who's making tea?
Yes, please.
How far did you run?
10.5.
Nice. Minutes. I love the ritual of tea. There's just something about it for me. Just the different steps. It's the same every time. Taking out my treasured handmade mug. You can see in our drawer there that we use these cloth napkins to keep everything from rattling when we're on the road, but also to protect my favourite mug that I'm using at the moment that my mum made by hand from a piece of clay, especially for me for this journey. There's just something about that first cup of tea of the day for me that is so good. It tastes different to any other tea, any other time of day, in my opinion. And now being able to have that every day outside in nature, oh, so good. Pinch me, that's the dream. So you're going to see just the rest of a typical morning here. Don't judge me for my weird breakfast. The thing that I want to share that I didn't necessarily document here is that my morning mindset routine doesn't always go to plan. Sometimes it's raining outside, and if we haven't put the awning out, it's motorized, the awning that we have, and so it feels a little bit antisocial if there's anyone else around, or if my husband and daughter are still sleeping, which they pretty much 100% of the time are. So I can't really put that out, and so sometimes I just sit up in the front of the cab in the van, and it's a little bit less of a vibe than being out in nature. So sometimes that's not quite the same. And one of the stops that we made in France, we intentionally wanted to be near a small city for a couple of days, but that meant staying in really essentially a car park next to a tram line. And I just didn't feel confident getting my yoga mat out in the morning and unrolling it in the middle of a car park. So, you know, it hasn't always gone to plan, but I am just loving when it does.